From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, December the 17th, 2018. The IDF uncovered a fourth terror tunnel dug by Hezbollah this weekend. The tunnel's discovery is part of Israel's recently launched Operation Northern Shield to detect and neutralize the tunnels dug by the terror group from Lebanon into Israeli territory. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wrote on his Twitter account of the latest tunnel found yesterday, "Our operation to deny Hezbollah the tunnel's weapon is proceeding according to plan and will continue until all of its goals are achieved." And the UN peacekeeping force UNIFIL today recognized that the tunnels do in fact violate UN Security Council Resolution 1701, an issue that is set to be addressed at the UN later this week. And Netanyahu today also addressed the two terror shootings in the West Bank last week and the actions Israel was taking in response, including the demolition of the terrorists' homes and revoking work permits for their families. Netanyahu warned terror group Hamas, "We will not accept a situation in which there is a ceasefire in Gaza and terrorism in Judea and Samaria," referring there to the West Bank. He said, "We will exact a heavy price for this." Australia said this weekend that it recognizes West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Speaking to the Sydney Institute Current Affairs Forum on Saturday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said, "We look forward to moving our embassy to West Jerusalem when practical, in support of and after the final status determination." Morrison also stressed Australia's support for a two-state solution and said Australia recognizes the aspirations of the Palestinian people for a future state with its capital in East Jerusalem. Morrison also said he plans to open a trade and defense office in West Jerusalem. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry welcomed the announcement, saying it was a simple acknowledgement of a reality that has existed since 1950. The Prime Minister, they said, deserves credit for resisting pressure from many quarters against taking even this modest step. Israel's foreign ministry called the decision to open the Trade and Defense Office a step in the right direction, but did not directly comment on the West Jerusalem recognition. Survivors of the Kindertransport will receive a measure of compensation from Germany 80 years after they fled the Nazis. The Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany announced it had reached an agreement with the German government for a one-time payment for survivors of the massive rescue. In November of 1938, following Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, the British government agreed to allow Jewish children to be evacuated to Britain. And between December of 1938 and September of 1939, 10,000 children, most of whom were Jewish, from Germany, Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Poland were put on trains by their parents in a desperate effort to save them and taken to Britain, where about half of them were placed with foster families, while others stayed in hostels, schools, or farms. Most of the children never saw their parents again. Of those rescued children, 1,000 are estimated to still be alive today. Claims Conference Special Negotiator Ambassador Stuart Eisenstadt said after having to endure a life forever severed from their parents and families, no one can ever profess to make them whole. They are receiving a small measure of justice. The Kindertransport Fund will be opened by the Claims Conference on January the 1st of next year. Well, the widow of Israel's first and only astronaut, Rona Ramon, has died. Ilan Ramon was killed in the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster in 2003. Their son, Israeli Air Force pilot Asaf Ramon, was killed in an Air Force training accident in 2009. In the wake of those tragedies, Rona Ramon, who was a public activist and educator, created a foundation to remember her husband and son and help others dealing with grief. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin said upon Rona's passing, "We will never forget how you built from out of the ruins, how you endowed meaning in infinite pain, how your creativity filled the never-ending void." Ramon died today after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. She was 54. And a mission to the moon inspired by Ilan Ramon is closer to making its launch. Israel's first unmanned spacecraft aimed to land on the lunar surface received its last component today before heading off to Cape Canaveral, a time capsule with hundreds of digital files in it, including Israel's Declaration of Independence, its national anthem, the memories of a Holocaust survivor, and a note from former Israeli Prime Minister and President Shimon Peres. The spacecraft is a project of Israeli nonprofit Space IL. Co-founder Yonatan Weintraub said the time capsule was full of dreams, just like a note one would put in the Western Wall. He said the initiative was inspired by Ilan Ramon, and therefore the first picture that we are going to take of the Earth will be dedicated to Ilan, a true Israeli pioneer venturing into the unknown. The Space IL craft, by the way, has just been given its name, Bereshit, the Hebrew word for Genesis, the first of the 5 books of Moses, the Old Testament. A launch is set for sometime in early 2019. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS from Monday, December the 17th at 7 o'clock. It's The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth. At 7:30, Christians United for Israel honor the Jewish state. At 8, former Israeli Consul General in New York, Ido Aharoni, discusses Israel's relationship to progressive American Jews and to President Trump, with David Margolick of Vanity Fair in a program of the New York Jewish Week and American Friends of Tel Aviv University. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Rudy Rockman, the founder of Students Supporting Israel at Columbia University. At 10:30, a look at defending Israel on college campuses. And coming up right after this newscast at 6:30, former Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz goes one-on-one. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, December the 17th, 2018. I'm Teisha Bader.